right, everybody. Hi there. Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell here in the Weather First Weather Center tonight. Just wanted to kind of give you an update on what's going on, not only this evening, but looking ahead to tomorrow. There are some thunderstorms out there this evening around St. Louis. You know, it's 6:45 on a Monday night. A lot of kids have ball practice for different sports, things going on. There's a couple of spots we have our eyes on this evening where we are looking at some storms, mainly just to the south of St. Louis, but they're isolated, and we don't think they're going to have a huge impact on most of the area. Now, we get into tomorrow, and then we have a better chance of seeing a little more widespread shower and thunderstorm activity. So here's kind of what we're looking at as far as your headlines go. At the moment, whoops, got the wrong button there. At the moment, we're basically looking, got it again. I love our system sometimes. There. Mouse clicks. Sometimes the mouse doesn't click. Isolated storms this evening. Okay, it's not going to be widespread. But anything that does develop this evening, and we're already seeing this playing out, has the potential of producing some small hail. But the main storm threat and the main severe weather threat is coming in here for tomorrow. So let's talk about what's going on right now on the radar screen. You're looking south and southwest of St. Louis here. These storms that are down into Jefferson County, Franklin County, they actually do have some hail in there, especially just west and southwest of Cedar Hill. And then you go back out towards Lonedale and off to the north of Mount Hope. We get out into this pretty hilly terrain here. They're not able to sustain themselves, though. So the thing we're looking at this point is, yes, we have the storms. They're growing. You don't see a huge amount of cloud-to-ground lightning in there. There's just a few bolts here west of Dittmer heading on up towards Cedar Hill. So you don't have as much lightning as you'd like to see for a storm that's really, you know, invigorating and going to be strengthening. But these storms do drift to the north and to the northeast. So I think potential's there, not only some small hail, but maybe we end up with something up to Nichols. Worst case scenario, can't imagine it being much more than quarter-size hail, but that's if they can keep going. We kind of broaden out the view, and you see most of the action here is down to the southwest of St. Louis at this point. And again, this is the area where you've had some heat and humidity in combo today, and so that's led us into the scenario that we're seeing playing out right now. That's a look across the rest of the region. So that's pretty much it for this evening. What you see is what you get. You're going to have these isolated storms through the evening hours, and then we're going to turn our attention to what's coming for tomorrow. And that's this system that's out to the west. So it's a pretty intense system that's wrapping up across Wyoming and Colorado. Big, strong jet stream winds with this that are really whipping in here, taking the big dip out west and then surging towards us. That really comes into play as we go into tomorrow. So we're thinking tomorrow, especially during the afternoon hours. This is when our severe weather threat is going to be greatest. So there's two rounds. And the first one we think that comes into St. Louis with any kind of threat of severe weather outside of the random threat this evening is the one that comes in tomorrow about 2 or 3 o'clock, lasts until about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Then there'll be a bit of a break into part of the evening. And then there may be some more thunderstorms towards 8, 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow night. How big that break is and the exact timing on it's going to determine whether the second round has any impact on us. It may just fizzle because of the first round of showers and thunderstorms. So that's kind of what we're looking at this point. So, you know, we'll be in storm alert tomorrow afternoon. What's our potential for severe weather? It's there. You know, for most of us, we're at a level 2 out of 5 on that severe weather risk. So let's go to midnight. This is Futurecast at midnight. There shouldn't be a whole lot going on. You've got the warm front lifting to the north, so that opens the door to the humidity, right? We already know we were in the mid to upper 80s again today, but in St. Louis, it was comfortable. You know, our dew points were in the 50s. South of St. Louis, dew points were in the 60s. Big difference. So towards daybreak, we may have a smattering of showers. That low-level jet kind of ramps up a little bit. Don't think it's going to be all that widespread, but you have clouds lingering for part of tomorrow morning, and then we kind of watch and wait and see what develops as we watch thunderstorms come at us from mid-Missouri, and they'll be moving pretty rapidly off to the east and northeast. In fact, the storm motion, we don't expect much in the way of flooding problems, because even if you got drenched tomorrow, it's like a 15 or 20-minute drenching, and then it's gone. This is not going to linger. These storms will be whipping through very quickly. Now, they may have some gusty winds, but we're thinking the greatest threat is farther north and northwest of St. Louis. As you get back closer to where that low pressure is up there going into northeast Missouri. So we'll still have a few hailers around tomorrow, some gusty winds, and potentially even some of these storms spinning and, the possibility of an isolated tornado. But at this point, we're not thinking that the greatest severe threat is here. It's more like on a line from Herman to Warrenton to Troy to Hardin to Jerseyville, and then points north and northwest. And it gets a little worse. The ingredients are a little in better supply for severe weather as you go farther to the north and west. And I think we're going to settle down here some tomorrow evening. And once we kind of push that boundary through, I think we're done. So here's where we are with our severe weather setup for tomorrow. The ingredients all appear to be there. We have the lift. You've got a big storm system. There's going to be a lot of wind too. So we have the shear, not only at the ground, but we're talking about winds aloft really howling tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. And we're in the right quadrant too of where the jet stream is placed to enhance that lift and the vertical motion of the air, which if you want big storms, you need the air to rise, okay? So what kind of threats are we looking at? Everything's on the table. All right, we won't look at flooding, I don't think, but you could have some damaging gusty winds, large hail certainly on the table, and maybe some isolated tornadoes depending on how the storms can interact with the available ingredients, and also where that twisting is more within the storm able to tighten, which we're thinking is more of a problem for west central Illinois and northeast portions of Missouri than it is for St. Louis. But it could still be a problem here, and it's something we'll have to monitor. Now, we're pretty good on timing here, thinking during the mid to latter part of the afternoon and into the evening. That's early evening hours. That's when our prime time is, and so we feel pretty confident about that. Location, again, the potential's there for any of us to see severe weather as we go into tomorrow. But, we still have some questions as to how widespread it will be if we're going to, have substantial or significant severe weather here versus the focus shifting a little farther to the north and northwest. So that's something that we're kind of monitoring, and we'll continue to reassess that. We're getting ready. The weather balloons got launched just a little while ago. They're up in the air right now, and so we have a new model cycle that's going to start in about 10 minutes. It'll take a while for that information to process and the computers to run that, but we'll look at this evening's data and compare it to how things were looking earlier and where we'll be going as we kind of look into tomorrow more specifically. This evening, again, an isolated threat of severe thunderstorms, and that's about it. We look into tomorrow. One of the other things, when we talk about the ingredients, one of the things you're looking for is the instability, the fuel. And we call this, I've called it the future cast energy. Really, it's something called CAPE, which is, your available potential energy, convective available potential energy. Basically, what this is a measurement in the atmosphere of you and I shaking up a soda can and not letting the lid off. There's a lot of potential energy if we let the lid off that can after we've shaken it up, popped the lid, or, the bottle of Coke. You shake it up, you take that lid off, you know what happens. Same sort of thing here. It's potential. We don't know if we're going to be able to access all of it or realize all of it, but there's a lot of energy that's available if the storms are able to use it. Something else that we're looking at is that wind shear. And we look at the darker reds down here. These are your upper level winds. That's where the strongest part of the winds are. But notice that kind of is in a nudged area here that kind of ends right here. So we're in the right spot to enhance our lift with the atmosphere tomorrow evening. So that's the bottom line, is tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, I think we're going to have to be on our toes. We definitely think it's going to be a storm alert scenario playing out. We just don't know how widespread. And we know some of you have some questions, so we're trying to answer some questions too.
Will there be 2 rounds of storms tomorrow?
I think you're looking at the main one. Will there be 2 rounds? There's a potential for 2. And we'll have something in the morning. I don't think it's going to be storms. I think it's going to be these nebulous showers that kind of drift through. So I don't think we have to really, I don't consider that round 1. I think you're going to have your main area that comes in midday, say after the midday hours, 2, 3, 4 o'clock. That's going to be our main focus. And depending on what that does and the stage that's set, probably the evening round will be more focused, like late evening, 9, 10, 11 o'clock would be more focused farther to the north of us. So while there is the potential for a couple of rounds of showers or thunderstorms tomorrow, I think our biggest concern in St. Louis is going to be in that 2 to 10 p.m. time frame. And because we're thinking 4, 5, 6 o'clock for the metro area, by the time the secondary, or really a third wave of showers and thunderstorms could get here, it would tend to be, it wouldn't have the warm air to act on. So it would have to overcome some problems. So that's what our focus is, really more on that 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the metro area. Unfortunately, that's right during the evening rush hour, which of course, you know, that's another concern we always have with the potential of severe thunderstorms. And, you know, you're stuck on Highway 40 because, you know, traffic's not good anyway, let alone in a thunderstorm. So that's a concern we have for tomorrow too. But again, we're going to have the fuel. Temperatures at or above 80 degrees. Dew points are up tomorrow. You'll feel the humidity. It'll feel unstable and more problematic as we go into tomorrow afternoon.
Will it weaken towards the metro east?
You know, and that's a big question. A lot of folks ask, as we go into Illinois, we tend to see the storms weaken. I don't think that these storms will be able to weaken as they push east into Illinois out of the metro area, at least initially, the first round. Now, if that first round ends up being much later in the day, then yeah, it's possible they would weaken as they go farther east because they'll be outrunning some of the upper level support and also outrunning, you know, your peak daytime heating. So part of, you know, again, you got all these layers of ingredients that you've got to get for this recipe for severe weather, and to get them all into play at the same time in the same place, that's something that, you know, remains to be seen even this far out. I mean, we're 24 hours away, and there's still a lot that could change with this forecast as far as specifics and timing and placement. But having said that, there's still the expectation that tomorrow is going to be an active weather day, at least for some of us. We just don't know exactly where and exactly which storms will be the most problematic for tomorrow. Does that make sense? Okay.
Can you review the timing again?
Yeah, so this is our timing really for the metro area. I'm thinking 3 o'clock to 6 or 7 o'clock is probably the prime time for the metro area. A little sooner than that, 1 to 3 out west of St. Louis. That's kind of why we left the blue on there for the first part of the day. You just need to be prepared first part of the day. You don't need to be worried. But the second part of the day is when we need to actively be paying attention to what's going on, and that may take us into the evening. Let me see if I've got this. I think I do. This is the one we were looking at, just to kind of look at this again. This is your future cast, and we'll just zip through this overnight. See, that's kind of right there towards daybreak is kind of your right in there, you know, 4, 5, 6 o'clock. That's kind of whatever's left, whatever is able to develop out to our west, that's what we get. We get the leftovers early tomorrow morning, and I don't think it's going to be much. But then as we go through the afternoon, you're going to see things start to develop out over mid-Missouri. And especially, you know, you look at this, these storms up north of Herman and then going farther to the north and northwest, those are the ones, you know, that you're in a much more favorable environment up towards Quincy and Hannibal and back towards Kirksville to get rotating thunderstorms. So that's kind of why, one of the reasons why we're a little more concerned with those areas versus in the St. Louis area per se for tornadoes. But we still could have some intense, and we probably will have some intense thunderstorms. That's taking us through 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Bonk the microphone, but it's still working. So, you know, I do think by 8 or 9 o'clock tomorrow night, things will be settling down. So any more questions? I'll kind of wrap it up. Good. I'm going to go back just real fast for those of you that are concerned about, you know, what's going on right this very minute with these thunderstorms that are out there. Again, we're looking at a few brief hailstorms this evening. And again, your lightning is limited on these. They're to the southwest of St. Louis. And as I'm looking at that cell that's just off to the west of Cedar Hill, yes, there's been small hail in there. The one out towards Lonedale too. And then you get out here north of Cuba. They're all producing, we think, some small hail and some brief downpours, but you'll also notice they are not lingering that long. You know, I guess they are lingering in those areas, but they're not staying intense for very long in any one spot. You get some downpours that last for a little bit, but they're moving so slow they effectively are keeping themselves from becoming any worse than what you see here. And again, you look southwest of us, there's not a lot of cloud to ground lightning with these, and you would expect to see a little more than that if you were going to get large hail out of these storms. And now that we're getting past our peak heating too for the day, that tends to limit how these things go. So we'll let you go for now. You know, we'll be monitoring it. I'll be getting some things together here. We'll keep you updated on 5+. Of course, you can always find that forecast on 5+ anytime. And we'll update the forecast for tonight. We'll be taking a look at the new model guidance that we get in the next couple of hours and what the upper levels look like and how that's all playing out compared to what we've expected to be at this point and what we expect it to do going forward. And then, you know, I'll be putting together a new forecast or an updated forecast for 10 o'clock if I need to change anything, and leaving Anthony an update for tomorrow morning. He'll be with you starting at 4 o'clock today in St. Louis. And the Weather First team's all going to be in and about the area tomorrow. We've got Tracy Hinson. She's going to be in the weather tracker. Gary Frank will be in here. And Jim Castillo. So everybody's working tomorrow. We know it's a potential for severe weather, and we're going to stay on top of it. But again, don't be alarmed at this point. It looks like the worst of it is farther north and west. We don't want to alarm anybody, but we want you to, you know, always be prepared and want to let you know ahead of time what's coming. So we'll talk to you again soon. You guys have a good night.